Do all things work together for good? That's the topic we're going to be addressing today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. Flourish-Meant is sponsored by Access More. Today, I have a beautiful and amazing woman of God. Her name is Gina G. Parker. She is an attorney and a successful businesswoman. She founded a company called Dental Creations, which is a dental manufacturing company. She's also a speaker for churches and women's groups, and she's an author as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about her recent titles. But Gina, I am so thrilled to have you on Flourishment today, and I can't wait to get into this topic and listen to you share from your experience and all of the things that you've learned in your life story and the amazing things that you have done and conquered in your own journey about how things can work together for our good, even after it seems like a disaster has happened. Welcome to Flourishment, Gina.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel like it's an honor to be able to be with you. You're so absolutely lovely.
Oh, it was a joy to meet you at the Christian Women in Media Association conference last fall, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show again. I cannot wait for you to share some of your story so people know that even though you look like you're so super put together, you are brilliant because you're an attorney and a businesswoman. You have a story of triumphing over difficult things in your own life that didn't seem like they could possibly work out for good. Can you share a little bit of that testimony with the audience today?
Sure. I think one of the hardest things for me was not being able to have children. And so barrenness is really difficult, and that's what they call it in the Bible. So we don't use that term in modern times much, but it really made a difference for me when I looked at the story of the mothers of the faith in the Bible. And you look at Sarah, who waited 25 years before she had her son. And then we look at Rebecca, who waited to have a child. And there's so many women in the Bible like this. But yet, that's where Jesus came from, that lineage. And you think, no one can write a story like God. And so when I looked at those stories and how they were disappointed, how they had to wait for answers to prayer, I'm encouraged that if I wait, that all things will work to good.
So you had a struggle with overcoming infertility issues, and yet you were also working through law school, which is not easy. And then
Yes.
you developed a dental manufacturing company. So can you talk about how you saw God helping you through hardships during those journeys as well?
Oh, certainly. One of the things that I realized early on in life is that sometimes people, we abandon the faith. When times get difficult and hard. We we move away from God instead of trusting God. And so that's the reason I wrote the 828 journey, is I wanted to encourage people to finish the journey. And as an attorney, what I found is when people would commit their lives to Christ, sometimes I saw my practice as a legal hospital. And so I was not only giving them legal advice, but I was also sharing Jesus with them and how spiritually they could get their lives back on track. And so, as a result of that, sometimes they would commit their lives to Christ, or they would start going to church, but then they could not find a job. And so, that's a big part of our lives, is being able to have an income. And so, I started Dental Creations in order to help people have second chances.
That's an amazing story. And that's hard to balance all the difficult work that you're doing in your own law practice, which is what you're doing, along with that dental manufacturing company business. There's a lot going on in your life. Did you ever feel overwhelmed or like you couldn't accomplish it? And how did you break through those feelings of overwhelm and stress?
Well, I think one of the things that God spoke to me early on in my legal career, when I would see stacks of papers on my desk and work to be done, is that He would help me separate the important from the unimportant. And that really made a big difference. And of course, time in the Word and prayer. You know, we talk about reading the Word and we talk about prayer, but then sometimes we don't practice it. So I had a pastor when I was young, and he would talk about practice the presence of God. And so when I practice his presence, then I'm able to turn the stress over. I have stress just like everyone else, and I get overwhelmed, and there's pain and disappointment. But Jesus is where I take that, and I take it to him during my quiet times and during special times that I set aside with him. And it makes a big difference in my life. It is the difference in my life.
So when we say all things work together for good, how is that different than all things working out the way we hoped?
Well, I think the key is in my book, I talk about, we start out with a plan A, and then it doesn't take us very long. Almost everyone in life, somewhere along the way, we're thinking, wow, this is not plan A. Maybe I'm on plan for me, after my divorce, my first marriage ended in divorce. I'm like, I think I'm on plan F or G, or maybe even further down the alphabet. And now, I'm older. I think, well, maybe I'm past even plan Z. I could be, have some imaginary letters here because, life has surprises. There's sudden tragedy, there's disappointments, sickness, disease, all these various things. So I end the book bringing everything together, saying whether you're on plan A or F or Z, the ultimate plan is that we have an intimate personal relationship with Jesus. And in the last chapter of the book, I talk about the coram deo, and what that means is that a life that's lived in the presence of God, submitted to the will of God and to the glory of God. And that's where we find true peace and joy and really our purpose. So it's not about success in my law practice or in ministry. It's about success in my personal relationship with Christ. And that's how I know all things work together for good. Verse 29 of Romans 8:28, the following verse, after all things work together for good, it says that we're therefore that we're transformed into the image of God, and that we're sons and daughters of God that reflect his glory. And ultimately it's about loving him and then loving others. And that's how we know it works for good.
Mhm. So the good that it works for isn't always the good that we're expecting when we ask for a specific result. It is the result that lasts forever that God is working on when he's working things out for our good, which actually in long-term view, in the eternal view, is a better good, wouldn't you say?
I would say definitely, I like the way you put that, the forever good. It's a great way to say it.
So how can people stay in touch with you and get a copy of the 828 journey and the new book that is about to come out?
They can visit my website at ginagparker.com, and they can get information there about the books and about scheduling speaking events or conferences. And then the new book is called Hush Little Baby, Don't Say a Word. Wait while he works.
Mm. Waiting is a very difficult thing, so I can't wait to hear more about that new title. Can you give us a release date?
It's supposed to be released in summer 2023.
So be looking for Hush Little Baby, Don't Say a Word by Gina G. Parker at a store near you on Amazon, any of those places. And I hope that all of you were inspired and encouraged, and you took some of these insights that Gina has given us to heart so that you can be encouraged that all things will work together for God's good in your life. And I also hope that you come back for the next episode of Flourishment.